Can you remember the first time you felt disappointment or something didn't go your way? How did you respond? The first distinct memory I have of disappointment happened when I was 8. I'd broken my finger a few weeks earlier, but my hand felt as good as new. Playing in the championship game of my youth baseball league was all that mattered to me at the time. I was a pretty good hitter at that age, and I begged the coach, who was, coincidentally, also my father, to pinch hit me in the bottom of the last inning. He refused, we lost, and I threw a temper tantrum, one of the worst ways to respond to disappointment. What can I say? I was 8, but to this day, I'm still passionate about baseball, so I can at least understand why I became so emotional. Too many people respond to disappointment and adversity in a similar way to my childish manner when I was 8. I understand that things may not always go your way in life. As the Buddhists say, life is suffering. But the individuals that respond better to disappointment and adversity are going to end up leading happier and more successful lives. So that's why I'm here to speak with you today. In my short life, what concrete measures do I take to improve my outlook as I go through daily ups and downs? As I mentioned, I'm a pitcher. This is me pitching when I was young. And it's very interesting to play this position because the whole game can essentially be controlled by the pitcher, from the speed and tempo of the game to where the ball is thrown, impacting where it goes if it is hit at all. So this can be a lot of pressure on a pitcher. From a young age, I quickly realized that yelling at my fielders or throwing my glove when a run scored was far less conducive to a positive outcome on the next pitch than getting the ball back and accepting what had happened. A few years ago, I did a workshop led by Dr. Tom House, a former Major League Baseball pitcher who has since started the National Pitching Association. He took this idea of moving on to the next level when he said, when someone hits a home run off you, turn around and laugh into your glove. Turn around and laugh. This was very counterintuitive to me at the time. I was used to being somewhat dejected and demoralized when someone got a hit off me. So to take it as far as laughing was not something I was initially comfortable with. Of all the sports, baseball is truly a game of failure. Or else can you fail 7 out of 10 times and still make it to the Hall of Fame with a 300 lifetime batting average? In sports, especially team sports, there's a widespread expectation that you need to succeed every single time or else you let your team down. Now, this is not entirely bad. It can lead to motivation to work hard off the field or to give it your all while you're playing. But to take it as far as becoming visibly upset while playing is not helpful to anybody. Too many times I've seen players go from having a perfectly good game to looking like they've never touched a baseball in their lives, simply because they struck out. To put a strikeout in perspective, Aaron Judge, who hit more home runs than anyone else this past season, had 100 more strikeouts than he did home runs. To succeed at the highest level, not just in sports, but anywhere in life, you must accept that you are going to fail, and you are going to fail a lot. But why did Tom House say that one should laugh after giving up a home run? When you're stressed or angry, your body releases stress hormones. The main one being cortisol, which puts you in a state known as fight or flight. Imagine you're a caveman 100,000 years ago, and you've just come face to face with a mountain lion. How would you respond? If you say, I wonder what the best way to deal with this situation is, bam, you're dead. If you either attack or run away, you have a much higher chance of survival. And the cavemen that did this were the ones that lived long enough to have children, who had children, and so on and so forth. We are alive today because a long time ago, an ancestor of ours acted with instinct when facing a stressful situation. The survivors are the ones who put their energy into their muscles, not their brains when experiencing stress. However, most of the stress we face on a day-to-day basis needs to be reasoned out, not beaten away. When you laugh or smile, your body releases endorphins, which counteract the effects of the cortisol. They lower your heartbeat, calm you down, and give control back to your mind. Even if you do not give a genuine laugh or smile, just by moving the muscles around your mouth in the way you would if you were actually smiling, tricks your brain into releasing these endorphins. Stress can come about in many different ways, not just from mountain lions, but I get the impression that our world today is far less upbeat than the world I hear about my parents growing up in. I attribute much of that to smartphones and technology. While all of our technology can have real benefits, there are also costs associated with their prevalence. The adolescent societal saturation in social media and our cell phones impacts our ability to think and be aware of ourselves. As Stoic philosopher and Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius once said, life's happiness is dependent on the quality of your thoughts. However, most of the thoughts and opinions that enter our minds are not ones we've had ourselves, rather something we watched a TikTok or a YouTube video on. If we are constantly focused on comparing ourselves to others or doom scrolling immersed in the negative and often violent events of the day, it's easy to see how one could lose control of their own inner compass, leaving them more anxious and stressed out. Statistics I found on the CDC website show that adolescents with extremely high cell phone usage showed a much greater risk for suicidal ideation compared with those who are general users, and that there's been a significant increase in suicide rates since the year 2000, with the primary jumps occurring after the release of the iPhone in 2007. In our modern world, most of the problems that we deal with on a day-to-day basis are best resolved with well-thought-out ideas and some perspective on the situation. That's the point Tom House is making, that a good laugh will put some perspective on a stressful environment. As a pitcher, rather than getting stuck, focused on the negative aspects of a situation, simply smiling will get me ready to face the next batter. If our thoughts towards our lives impacts our experience of it, and we want to find the middle ground between happiness and disappointment, let's return to my theme of perspective in baseball. It's very difficult to throw a ball exactly where you want it to go if your muscles are tensed and prepared for a fight. In fact, it may even cause a fight if it leads you to throw a ball into the batter's ribs. The key is, in order to be successful and not have your stress hormones running the show, you need not be focused on failing, but on being present in the moment. Tom House and the Stoics have it right. Your thoughts towards your experience make a big difference. As a pitcher, rather than getting stuck, focused on the negative aspects of a situation, simply smiling will get me ready to face the next batter. Once I let go of the ball, I have no control over what happens next. I can do everything I can to be prepared to give my best performance, but once the ball is pitched, I truly need to let go of my worries about what is going to happen and just be ready to meet the moment, wherever the ball goes. In psychology, there's something known as a flow state, commonly known as being in the zone, where there's a sense of connection between your mind and your body. Time feels like this slowed down and you are completely present in your experience. For example, before you throw a pitch, you might step off the pitching rubber to think about what you're going to throw and what happened on the previous pitch, but when you step back on the rubber, you aren't thinking about anything. You don't hear the crowd or the other team yelling. You're just in the moment, executing the pitch to the best of your abilities. Baseball's provided me with an incredible vehicle for experiencing life fully, from the joys of success to the depths of failure and everything in between. My hope for you is that you find a similar type of vehicle for yourself, where you become fully engaged, giving you a full range of experiences. I've talked a lot about sports, but let me finish with a story that truly brought home the importance of how a change in mindset can be a catalyst for a change in reality. It was the latter half of a multi-week whitewater canoe trip to the northern regions of Ontario and Quebec. It was the third day of consistent, steady rain. Our boats drew near a campsite after dozens of miles of paddling and portaging. It was clear the morale of the group was low as we had the daunting task of gathering soaking wood just to struggle to start a fire for another night in a row. Our 2 trip leaders, probably feeling just as dreary as the rest of us, energetically told us to be efficient in our chores so we could eat and get to bed as soon as possible. As I took a deep breath to prepare to jump into the cold, waist-deep water to pull my boat ashore, I yelled at the top of my lungs, "I love this." Although mildly sarcastic at first, I yelled it again and again and again. As I yelled, a sense of acceptance came over me. I was okay. I was healthy and able-bodied, and I had dinner and sleep waiting for me after a physical day. As I looked out at the beauty of the woods, I realized I was happy. In the nights prior, I'd been miserable as I slowly stooped down to pick up and collect the wood. This night was different. I felt comfortable in a way I hadn't before. I was quite wet and in an undesirable situation, but unhappiness could not change that predicament. It could only make it worse. That night, I got my firewood faster than I ever had before. My situation had not changed at all. My perspective had. Our happiness is not based on rain or sun. It's how we think about the rain or sun. Our happiness is not based on things happening around us. It's based on what we make of them. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And don't forget, if you give up a home run in life, laugh at it. Thank you.